Now, I noticed that a lot of students always have this problem. For those that are running their undergraduate programs, maybe their master's programs as well, when it's time to conduct research, there's this problem of how do I start, how do I conduct research, and it's like you don't know where to start or how to start it. Now, research work is very, very easy, especially scientific research. Yes, I mean scientific research. So there is no big deal about it. And in today's video, I'm going to be taking you on step-by-step procedure on how to conduct your research. And once you can do that, man, you're going to have a good product at the end of the day. You're going to have a good work at the end of the day. So follow me as I'm going to take you on the steps to run a good research. You're welcome back. Now, have you subscribed? Make sure you subscribe immediately and then like our page. We'll be glad to hear your comments on this video too. Now, research is basically the process of finding out something that you don't know, something that you are not certain about. It could be you need to have like a hypothesis where you're trying to like decide what is actually in. Is this thing true or is this false? That's your research question. So research is actually trying to find out an answer to a question. So each time you're thinking about a research work, just know that there is a research question and you're trying to find an answer to the research question. So scientific research builds upon the extant knowledge base. It is something that is repeatable, is verifiable. It's in fact an organized and systematic way of finding answers to questions. It is a disciplined inquiry, okay? So each time you're trying to embark on scientific research, just know that it requires a systematic way of getting into this. It has a step-by-step procedure, and at the end of the day, it is also verifiable. That is to say, someone else can carry out the same research the same way you explained your methodology. The person should be able to get exactly the same results that you got. So if the person conducts exactly the same thing you did, the same methodology, and gets something outside what you got, it means there's a problem somewhere. So I'm going to be giving you characteristics of a standard research work. Every research work has these characteristics. If it's a standard research, then these characteristics should be obvious. Number one is that it has to be structured. Your research work has to be structured. You don't just carry A from nowhere and then dump it in B. What's your approach to that research? What's the methodology that you're using in order to achieve the research work you're conducting? So it has to be structured. It has to follow a particular pattern. What's your literature review like and stuff like that. Then the second thing is that it has to be transparent. It has to be clear in its structure, the processes, and then the outcome. You don't try to like hide some information and say, no, I'm not going to release this and it's for this. And see, when you are conducting a real standard research, you need to be transparent. Let us know the data, the figure that you obtained. That would help that will help another person to either proceed in the same research direction or to confirm some of the things that you've done in order to verify your own information. Now, research should also be transferable, and then when I mean transferable, it should be useful beyond that particular research you did. That beyond that specific research you did, your results should be transferable. Let's take for instance, at the end of analyzing a particular thing, you obtain a certain result. Now, if someone is to also continue research work in that direction, possibly in bioavailability, you got some information and data from the research work you've done. Now, if someone else wants to move further in that direction, the person should be able to transfer the knowledge you have obtained from your own research work into his own, and the person would also acknowledge you, and that is always considered in the literature review. And then sometimes in your own, comparing your results with the literature you have done earlier. Then the next thing is that your research should be accessible. As much as possible, don't just conduct research and then allow it to end up in a shelf or in a booklet. Make it open, okay? Let people know you. Increase the visibility of the work that you have done, and in so doing, it will also increase your own visibility as a scientist. So now, to get this, there are two major types of scientific research. The first one is the review research, and then the second one is the experimental research. Now, in this review and experimental, let me explain it this way. In review research, you're trying to do more or less literature. You're trying to like conduct, look at people's literature, what they have done. You're trying to look at them and then make your deductions, okay? It could be online. You try to use some apps to get other people's work, and then you look at what they've done, and then from there you now make your deductions, okay? So that's for review research. But for experimental research, at the end of making your review and whatever deduction you've made, you're going to go a step further to get into laboratory analysis. So depending on the kind of science area where you are, if it's environmental science or natural sciences or physical science, biological science, in that case, we're going to get some samples, you're going to get to the lab and do some analysis and then get the results and all the rest of them. So depending on the kind of research, so each time you want to conduct research, you're going to ask yourself, what kind of research am I going into? As a scientist, am I going to a review research, or am I going into an experimental research work? So I'm going to give you step-by-step means, that's step-by-step things to do in conducting your research. So I'm going to give you the steps to conduct a good and profitable research work, okay? Now the first one is to define your question. Define the question that you want to investigate on in order to obtain the results. So in defining your question, you're going to be looking at observation, you're going to make predictions, you're going to, ask yourself some research questions. Why is this thing like this? Why is this? If this is this, why is it not this way? Make hypotheses, make observations, and from your observations, you're going to make your hypothesis and then all whatnot. So that's it. The first thing you're going to do is to define the question that you wish to investigate. And then, when it comes to writing properly, the first thing you're going to also do is to give us the introduction of the work you're researching. We want to know, give us a kind of a background study, a background knowledge of what you have done or what you intend to do, okay? By that would also include, apart from the background knowledge, you're going to tell us about your aim and objectives, okay? The aim of the research. What do you intend to achieve by that research? You're also going to tell us in that your chapter 1 what the knowledge gap is. Okay, this is the knowledge gap that you've seen, and because of that, you've given us the justification. You also give us the justification why you are embarking on that research in your chapter 1. And then for your aim and objectives, for aim, you're going to tell us generally what you intend to achieve with the results, and that could be in one sentence or more. But in your objectives are the step-by-step things you intend to achieve in order to achieve the aim. Okay, so if you have let's say you want to achieve the aim of knowing what something, a particular plant, it's all about. Now the next thing is that your objective will be the step-by-step things you want to know about the plant. You want to know about the chemical composition of the leaf. You want to know about the chemical composition of the trunk and all the rest of them. So getting those things are your objectives. So these ones are your objectives. So your aim and your objectives should be found within your first chapter. Okay, now the next thing is that you need to review people's work, and to review people's work, that's your chapter 2. You're going to conduct a whole lot on literature review. Now the way you present your literature review actually shows how much you understood the question, your research question. Okay, so you're going to present your literature in a sequential order. If you're starting from 1990, now let's know what people have done in that area from that 1990 to 2022 in that sequential order. Okay, so in your literature, it's not just about carrying what people have said and paste. Remember that when you are trying to review people's work, you don't just carry whatever they have written and paste on your work. No, you're expected to paraphrase and also at the end of the day to cite the persons that you have used or you have reviewed their work. Okay, now I want to ask, why literature review? Why do you even need to do literature review? Why not get into research and then move straight and start your research work? I'm going to give you the reasons why you need to conduct literature review. The first reason is that the literature review is going to give us a background knowledge of the area that you want to work on. Okay, that's the first reason why you are doing literature review. That particular area you want to get into, you want to research, you want to have a kind of a background knowledge about it. Now, the second thing that literature review will do for you is that it's going to help you find the knowledge gap. Remember, you're not expected to repeat what other people have done. If we keep repeating each other, then there is no progress anywhere. So you're expected to look at the people's work and then find a gap, a knowledge gap that you're going to fill up. Okay, that's the second reason why you're conducting literature review. Now, the third reason why you're conducting literature review is to help you build on your methodology. You know, the kind of methodology you want to take up in conducting a particular research. Who have used that particular method in the past, and how successful was that method? So these are the things, that the benefits that are associated with literature review, that when you do the right thing, when you do a good literature review, you will definitely have answers to these three things. And when you have answers to these three things, it would help you to build your background. Now, the third one is that you're going to get into gathering of data. Okay, when it comes to gathering of data, you are right into your research work proper. Okay, now you're moving into the experimental aspect of the research. Now, there are three ways you can obtain your data, or three ways you can obtain your data. The first one is that you can obtain your data from natural phenomenon, observing natural phenomenon, observation of natural phenomenon. And in so doing, it could be to observe the atmosphere and make some observations in a natural field. Okay, it could also be field work. You're trying to obtain some data. If you're into geology, you're trying to get your inclination, your beds, the measurement of your beds, and all whatnot. Okay, that's the first way to gather your data. Now, the second way to gather your data is to get the results from the laboratory. Now, when you take some of the samples you've obtained from the field or you've obtained from anywhere into the laboratory, you try to make some analysis on them, and then the results you get is another form of data that you need. Okay, now the third form of getting this data is through questionnaires and interviews. So you can get your data via questionnaires and interview, trying to ask people what their experience is over a particular thing, and then trying to make your deductions, and then at the end of the day you try to plot out the results that you've obtained from the questionnaire and interview. So these are the ways that you can obtain your data. So now be sure that the methodology that you're using, that it is repeatable. That is to say, someone else can repeat the same methodology step by step. Perhaps you're doing a program in chemistry or chemical related course, or in physics or whatever, any of the sciences. Just be sure that whatever you have done, if someone should follow the same kind of procedure step by step, the person should achieve the same result like you did. Okay, so if you look at some of the scientific research, like in chemistry, you'll see them mentioning the reagents, the quantity of reagents that they added to something, and all the rest of them. So that's, you just need to be exact when it comes to that. Now, the next thing I'm going to tell you is to analyze this data. And in analyzing the data, you're going to get your results and discussion. So that's where your results and discussion comes into play. The results that you obtained from the laboratory or from whatever, your questionnaire or whatever, bring it down to the desk now and start analyzing what you have done. Okay, if I'm having this result, now let's look at result first. You have to give us the result that you've obtained, and there are various ways that you can state your result. You can use various charts to give us your results. You can use tables to give us your results, figures, and all the rest of them. And then when you are done with that, the next thing is to move into discussion. And these two could be found in chapter 4 of your work. Now, both your results and discussion, you need to be very careful at this point. You know why? In discussion, you are trying to relate your results with what you had in your literature review and your objectives. Okay, now those objectives you marshaled out earlier on in your chapter 1, this is the time you're going to be picking them one after another in relation with the results that you have obtained, and then try to also link it with what you have found that people said about it in your literature review, and that will give you a balanced discussion. Okay, so discussion is not just about you talking about that result over and over again. You have to relate it to answer the questions that your objectives are trying to achieve, and then try to also look at what the literature you did in that area has said. Okay, so that's it basically for your discussion. Now, when you are done with your discussion, in your chapter 5, you're supposed to be talking about the summary and the conclusion of the work you have done, all the things that you have said in your discussion, trying to answer the questions, the research questions, trying to answer to your objectives. Now, this is the time for you to like summarize everything, try to like give us in a nutshell what the research is all about. So at the end of the day, if someone reads your abstracts, remember your abstract is an executive summary of everything you have done in the research work. So if someone reads your abstract and then your summary and conclusion, the person should be able to actually know what you are saying, what you have done in that research work. Now, before I go further, I'm going to talk to you about 3 questions. Now, each time you answer these 3 questions, just know that your research work is as good as done. Now, the 3 questions are the question of what, the question of why, and then the question of how. Now, the question of what area are you interested in? Yes. You cannot come and say, I want to conduct research, and then you want to do everything. It is practically impossible. So you're going to answer the question, what area am I interested in? This research work I want to carry out in, let's say, organic chemistry, or inorganic chemistry, or in geochemistry, or in geophysics. What area in that particular field am I interested in? That's the first question. Now, when you have defined that, the next question you're going to ask yourself is, why has it been that way? Like, the observations I made, why is it this way? Or why is it not the other way? So you're going to answer that question as well. Why is this thing this way? And to answer the question of why, see, let me tell you, the first question of what is going to help you establish your introduction. Whereas the second question of why is it like this, why is it the other way, you're going to answer that question using your literature review. Yes, in the review you're going to see what people have said, and then you get to know why this thing is running the way it is running. Then the next one is how. I mean, how am I going to conduct my own research so that I'll be able to answer? I've seen the knowledge gap. How am I going to do my own so that I'll be able to answer this question? Now, that how is going to help you in your methodology. Okay, it's going to help you in your methodology, whether you're going to the field, whether you're going to the lab, and all the rest of them. It's going to help you answer. So these 3 questions are very important. Now I'm going to talk about referencing. So many times students write their work and they're like, I'm just going to they'll just carry names from nowhere and put in the reference section. No, that's not the way to do it. In referencing, you're going to bring up the citations you had in the main work. So everyone you cited, be it in the written work, in your figures, in your tables, you're going to bring them fully down and write their details. If in the main work you were writing things like Onyabo et al. 2000 or whatever, in the referencing section, you're going to write the name in full, like the surname and the initials, depending on the referencing style that you're using. And you're not just going to write the first person. Now you will write other authors that co-authored the work with me. Okay, so that's the way to go about your referencing. Be sure that everything you have in your main work that in the referencing section you have the full names spelled out in that section. Okay, so just carry things from nowhere and dump in the referencing section, then it's gonna make you fail, because one, it's a clear evidence of plagiarism. Okay, now I also want you to know that in your written work, make sure that you refer to your tables and your figures in your writings. Also, in your written work, make sure that you refer to all your tables and your figures. Please don't just catapult any table or any figure from nowhere and put in your work without making reference to that figure. It means that your work wouldn't be sequential. You're just getting anything from anywhere and just putting. So be sure that in your writing, you write and refer to that image, that figure, or that table. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you some referencing styles. There are a lot of referencing styles. Depending on the one that your institution is using, you're going to use that one. So we have the APA. APA is American Psychological Association. So they are the ones that have the APA style. And then in APA style, the surname comes first. And then after the surname, you have the initials, the year of publication, the title of the paper, and the title of the paper. You're also going to have the name of the journal, and then the number, if it's the bulletin number, the volume, and stuff like that. So you're also going to give us the pages, the page limits where the work was obtained from. Okay, now if you're not using APA method, if you're using MLA method, it looks similar to APA, but here the name of the initials are written. In APA, you use initials for the first name and the second name. It's only the surname that you spell out. But in MLA, the names are written out boldly, so there is nothing like using initials anywhere. So if 2000 or whatever, then you also have the Oxford referencing style. In this style, the year of publication comes first. Remember, in APA and MLA, the year of publication comes after the name of the authors, but in this one, the year of publication before any other thing. That's the Oxford referencing style. And then you have the Chicago referencing style, and then any other institution can also have their own referencing style. But be sure that whatever referencing style you are using, you are going to follow it to the letter. So I've tried to give you some examples of APA format, MLA format, so that it can help to guide you. But for most institutions in Nigeria and Africa too, I know that they always go for this APA method or APA standard. And so that's it for research work. Let me just say this before the end of this video. Be sure that you don't do anything called plagiarism. It's an academic offense and it's very, very bad. There are different forms of plagiarism. Okay, I'm going to be talking about that in our next video, so that you know whether you are actually involved in plagiarism or not. It's possible that you've done one or two plagiarism here and there, and you don't even know that it's plagiarism. So in our next video, I'm going to be telling us all you need to know about plagiarism, so you don't commit academic fraud. Okay, so thank you for today. I want to believe you've learned something, so let me hear it out on the comment section. Thank you. Bye-bye.